All right. Well, hi, everybody. Happy Sunday night. And I just wanted to say I'm loving this class, loving the book. I mean, what do you say other than just it's so eye-opening, and I think, there's not one person who won't get multiple revelations from reading these chapters, and just every week just realizing, just having the revelation. I mean, it's huge, you guys. This is huge. So I just wanted to say thank you for those who have shared in the group this week. Have loved getting just all your feedback and your counter affirmations, and I would just encourage you to really continue to work on those counter affirmations. That's going to be a big part of just your programming. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sonia, and she's going to start with chapter 6 and share her thoughts. So take it away, Power Partner.
All right. Thank you, Helen. Well, chapter 6 they're all fairly short, or a couple of the chapters are really short, and this is kind of one of those. It talks about the wall, and I really love this one because, I talk a lot about the wall when I do my training in John Maxwell stuff. I talk about that, we go to something and we leave that event and we want to put into action what we've learned, but we feel this resistance, and it's that wall. But, this kind of took it a step deeper, because it's like it kind of talks about what is that wall? What makes up that wall? And it's, to me, on page 48, whereas most of our self-talk is unconscious, we're not even aware of it. Talks about how we just catch little flickers and little flashes here and there, and that's just clearly things from our past that come up. And I loved how it connected that with, every time a new thought that we think comes through, it's like your mind is a filing cabinet, and it tries to stick that in with something that it relates to. And so, he goes on to talk about the more we believe about something, the more we'll accept other ideas which are similar. And so our mind is constantly trying to file things. Every thought that comes through, it's trying to connect it and relate. Wow. And so it talked a lot about, this makes it easy to understand. It's hard to teach an old dog to be organized. And then when we have a new idea about it, our mind wants to put it in the file with the part that says, with the same file that says, I'm not organized. I'm not a good organizer. All the things that you've said. So it's trying to put that new thought and that new idea in there. Well, I love how it goes on to say, we have to change the beliefs about the organization in order for, when it files it in an organization, for it to even be productive. And Helen's going to really, I know in chapter, I think 8, a lot of you loved, she's going to recount, and that will totally make sense, that everything stems from programming. Everything. So just the wall. So I feel like the wall is made up from all that self-talk. And he just goes on 51 to give you a lot of examples. 51, 52, 53. I mean, I'm just going to say 4 or 5 of them, but like people say this to me all the time. I can't remember names. How do you remember names? Well, don't say that. Say, I'm great at remembering names. When you catch yourself, read some of these. I know we all say this. I'm too shy. Well, I don't say that.
I'm not
we need
cut
to
out.
be saying, I have so much time left over at the end of the day. I'm not cut out for this.
I'm not a salesperson.
It seems like I'm always
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I can't seem to get anything done. Just all these little things that we don't even realize are negative. We think they're just statements. I'm just as guilty, guys. I'm just as guilty. No wonder people have a hard time changing. No wonder. How many people are really reprogrammed everything? It's crazy. It's going to be a lot of work, I'm here to tell you. So, living with the results talks about your physical computer. Your mind is a computer. If you sit down at your computer and you typed out all those negative things, your mind, all it does is it just puts it in the computer and it just makes it happen. It'll do whatever you program it to do. So very powerful. And I love, about talking about our kids, and Helen's going to cover that, but the things that we say that, it's just really eye-opening. Living with the results. I'll close out this. He gave some great examples, but, the human brain will do anything possible that you tell it to do if you tell it often enough and strongly enough. The subconscious mind does not see the difference between a statement that we're clumsy and a statement that we're graceful. It does not know the difference. It just accepts the programming as we deliver it. So no matter what I do, he says, nope, this is how with money to make ends meet. Our subconscious mind says, okay, I'll do what you're telling me to do. I'll make sure you can't make ends meet. I mean, guys, really? Mm-hmm. Just what we've done to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I'll turn it over to Helen. She's going to cover 7 and 8. We're trying to keep this brief for tonight.
Okay. So chapter 7, I think, as a parent is just really, really eye-opening. Because we, obviously, if we're saying these things to ourselves, then what's coming out of our mouths to our children? And it oftentimes will make us realize, okay, well, this is what I heard as a child. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about what really hit home for me. Matt and I, we really try, as much as we can to encourage our boys. And obviously, as a parent, you just want to, you're thinking that you're doing everything right. But I just kind of wanted to share a little story about Matt as a child. And we were talking about this chapter together because he grew up in a really religious household where they were taught to fear God and not love God. And his dad told him, and he gave me permission to tell this story, but his dad told him his entire childhood that he was stupid, that he couldn't do anything right. He worked on a farm, and as like from the time he could walk, he worked. I mean, they had children, multiple children for help on the farm. That was, kind of common to when he grew up on 1,000 acres and they were farmers. And so, his dad didn't know any better other than just to motivate them through fear and a lot of stress. And so he had a dream to be a chef. And he was told, obviously, all his life that, he wasn't smart enough to do anything. And the only college his dad would pay for was this Christian college down in Texas. And by the time Matt turned 18, he had a lot of issues, and he just didn't want to do anything that his dad encouraged him to do. He was a rebel. And so he didn't go to that college, and he just moved out. He got as far away as he could. But, we were talking about this chapter, and I just said, could you even imagine? Because, Matt was a flight attendant for 27 years, and it's kind of something he stumbled upon into. It wasn't something he had ever dreamed of doing or anything. And it turned out to be a good career for him. But thankfully, since Plexus, he's been able to retire early because the last 10 years were really, really stressful. But we just talked about, could you imagine? Just imagine for a moment if your dad had encouraged you to become a chef. What cooking school would you like to go to? How can we as a family, help you, encourage you with goal setting, and you can go out and raise money for college because they didn't have a lot of money. But how could you become, sufficient where you could go after this dream? But there was none of that. And so we were just talking today about, wouldn't it be cool if he did end up going to chef school, and eventually when the boys are gone, and he's kind of got excited, but just to show how different our lives turn when we are not encouraged, when we are told. And his dad, he wasn't a bad person. It's just what he knew to do, to motivate out of fear. And unfortunately, a lot of other things. So I think that story kind of in a nutshell covers what this is about. We highlighted quite a bit, in this chapter. Think for the moment the dreams you could have accomplished in your life. Think of the talents and the skills already within you, which could have been developed into lasting achievements had you just had the right amount of self-belief. So just pertaining to our Plexus business, it's not too late. Now we know, right? It's something that we can really work toward. So just really eye-opening, and I know a couple of you had commented in the group about how you're more aware of what you're going to say to your children and how life-lasting that was. And our boys were kind of listening to our conversation. They're like, thanks, Mom and Dad, for encouraging us, because, Larson's real talented musically, and we're really hoping that he can get a music scholarship. But we're just, doing the best we can with what we know. Like, for me, my parents never really told me that I couldn't do anything, but they also never really encouraged me to do something. It was kind of expected that we went to college. My siblings ahead of me all went to college. Like I wrote in my whole, why I got screwed up in my mind, thinking, well, I didn't finish college, so I'll never be smart enough or good enough or anything. But just, so for me, it wasn't so much like Matt, but it wasn't really encouraging either. So obviously those words help, right? I mean, it's better to say that than to not say anything at all. But of course, the worst is when we're told that we're stupid and will never amount to anything. And he lists, quite a few things. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of us or all of us aren't saying those extreme things to our children, but it's just something to think about. If we're beating ourselves up, our kids are listening to that, us say that to ourselves. So it's so impactful. It's amazing. All right, so we'll move on to chapter 8. This one here. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to say, it's made me more conscious of, and I've been doing this now for about a year, but instead of saying to my son, he's a lot like his mom in the way of his room stays a mess. Okay. So instead of me saying, you're such a messy person.
Mm-hmm.
See, that bothers, that's something I've struggled with all my life, because I'm a clutter bug. Well, so instead of me saying to him, you're a clutter bug, you're a messy person, I'm more aware of saying, you know what, Taylor, please take some time up every now and again, once just clean it up. It's going to make you feel better. I'm more aware of not saying, you're such a clutter bug. Instead of labeling people for things that aren't about him, that's not who he is. That's a habit he has, or that's something he can change. I don't want to think about this. Made me think, the more you say you're a clutter bug, you're a messy person, obviously that's what's going to continue to happen. It just really is eye-opening. So, you can still get the point across and encourage change without labeling them as that's who they are. So anyway, I just want to add that.
No, it's true. And Larson's, I'll just pick on him tonight because he was listening in our conversation, but he's always running late. He's always forgetting stuff. I mean, we're talking, and when somebody's that smart musically, oftentimes they lack, and you can't be excellent in every single area of your life. And that's unfortunately, as busy as he is, he lacks an organization. And it is one of those things we have to battle, because it's like, you forgot this again, or you're so forgetful. Well, it's not helping him. And it's so easy just to say that, because it's kind of like what you just think to say, you get mad at him. Yeah. And I'm not exaggerating. It is a daily thing. And so they actually all want to read this book when I'm done, and we can all work on it together. I think it's exciting as a family if you can really just break some generational, I don't want to say curse, but just those cycles that are really just passed down. And we have the power through our words to change all that. So thank you, Sonia. It's so true. I mean, gosh. And I've seen Taylor's room, so I know what you're talking about. Actually, I didn't see much but clothes. Okay.
Can't even see the carpet.
Yeah. Okay, so chapter 8 is pretty fascinating with the whole self-management sequence. So he goes on into real, just in depth on why we behave the way we do. Behavior is the result of how we feel about things. How we feel about things are a result of our attitude. And our attitude is a result of our beliefs. And our beliefs come from our programming. So I'm sure this chapter is really worthy of being read several times, in my opinion. to really have it all sink in, but it just makes sense. And I think a light bulb went on for a lot of us in this chapter. He just talks about the wrong series of actions. In most cases, if you do the right thing, you're going to achieve the right results. If you do the wrong things, you're not going to achieve your goals. And so those behaviors are a result of how we feel. And I'm sure a lot of you too have watched Joyce Meyer, and she talks a lot about feelings. I want to think I feel, and how we're so we act out of our feelings all the time, and how just that doesn't serve us when it's something that isn't positive in our life. So moving on to the reason we don't heed even our own advice is because of something else which affects, directs, or influences or controls all of our actions. And that's something that makes us do what we do is called our feelings. And so that's some of the things I highlighted about the feelings is she talked about her friend who has a fear of flying. And it's really not the flying, it's her feelings about the flying. And so in this example, you notice once again, it made no difference if the individual feelings were rational, because it's just what they feel, right? Her feelings were nonetheless directly controlled, influenced, and severely affected. They affected her actions. She would drive to see her family, which took up 2 to 3 days instead of a couple-hour flight. Your feelings about anything you do will affect how you do it. It doesn't have to be the feelings of like or dislike, joy or fear. All of your feelings affect your actions. I just think that's it's just so true. But what causes you to have feelings, which are so much a part of you? Did you get them by accident? What creates the way you feel about anything? Chance? Never. Your feelings are created, controlled, determined, or influenced by your attitudes. And we all know our attitudes are either positive or negative. There is no gray area. Whatever attitude we have about anything will affect how we feel about it, which in turn determines how we'll act about it. And that in turn determines whether or not we will do well. Am I frozen on the screen, Sonia?
You are.
Okay.
Yep, you are. Yeah.
Okay.
You're holding your goose egg there and you're frozen.
I'm frozen. All right. Just as long as you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Where do we get our attitudes? Are we born with them? Do they just appear out of nowhere? Our attitudes are no accident. They don't just happen. Our attitudes are created, controlled, and influenced entirely by our beliefs. Oh, gosh, this is so good. Belief does not require that something be the way that we see it to be. It only requires us to believe that it is. So belief does not require something to be true. It only requires us to believe that it's true. So here's where I think it's such a turning point for us to realize our actions and our feelings and how we end up places in life. That means that most of what reality is to each of us is based on what we've come to believe, whether it's true or not. And he gives a little analogy about how people in the Soviet Union can teach that America's bad, and America, they can teach that we're bad, and that we just grow up believing what we are taught and what we are told over and over again. I starred this because I think this is so relevant to our business. When he talked about that let's just say you had trouble making friends easily, or you were being accepted easily, and being social was hard for you, and you took a backseat to being popular and just being self-conscious and at social gatherings at your work. And I think this can show up in our business if we have been told or believed to become we're shy, or that we're not salespeople, or that, whatever we were told. Let's just say that you knew that you wanted to be intelligent and witty and fun, but you believe that on the outside that you just didn't measure up. And this is what I starred here. since whatever you believe about yourself will end up affecting what you do, you can be sure that if you believe that you are not as socially successful as you would like to be, your belief about yourself will turn out to be correct, whether it was true or not. All social behavior is conditioned. No one is born popular or socially adept. Every social grace, skill, and comfort level that we have, successful or unsuccessful, is based on what we believe about ourselves. If you tell yourself that you cannot, what can the outcome only be? The only outcome be that you can't. So I just thought, and we hear that in our business a lot as leaders about just feeling like and we as women are the worst. I'm not like so-and-so. I'm not as charismatic. I'm not as engaging. I mean, these are all learned behaviors in many ways. I mean, yes, we're all born with this particular personality or whatever, but we can learn through confidence and reprogramming to believe that we are. So what makes us believe? Do our beliefs just one day spring out of nowhere? Were our beliefs handed to us the day of our birth, like birthmarks? Do we create them ourselves? Where do we get them? Our beliefs are not accidents of nature. Our beliefs are created and directed entirely by our programming. It's our programming that sets up our beliefs and where the chain reaction begins. So he says, number 1, programming creates beliefs. Number 2, beliefs create attitudes. Number 3, attitudes create feelings. 4, feelings determine actions, and actions create results. So we just flipped it all around, and that's where our results come from. It's that pattern of behavior, and it all starts with our programming. I can't say enough about, I think this chapter is the best so far, because it really can help you connect the dots on why maybe you feel stuck, or why you feel inadequate in certain areas of your life, and how if you want something bad and God's given you a dream, to trace it back to all that and know that you have the power to change your results by starting with your programming. So I know that took a little bit longer than our allotted time, but there's just a lot to cover there. It's amazing. I'll turn it over to you, Sonia.
Okay. Chapter 9 just goes into the levels of, yeah, you're frozen. It's driving me crazy, but I'm okay. We're going to finish. Okay, let's see. There's level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the self-talk. And I'm not going to go into depth on it, because I do want to try to finish in a few minutes. And you read it, and you can go into depth over it. The main thing is that levels 1 and 2 are bad. They're bad for you. And you've got to figure out, are you doing more of number 1? I can't do this because I'm not good. Are you making those plain out statements? I can't do that. I am broke. I'm not a salesperson. I mean, you're affirming the negative. Or are you number 2, which the level of number 2 is actually really worse than number 1, because in number 2, you're recognizing the problem. It's, I need to, whatever. So it's like this. Let's give an example. Here's one. I need to get more organized, but so it's like you're recognizing it, but then you're not finding a solution. You're almost giving an excuse. I need to get organized, but I haven't had time to do it. Or I need to lose weight, but I don't know how to cook healthy food. I mean, it's like an excuse. So it's like you really recognize it, but then shooting it down. So 1 or 2, you need to figure out which you're doing the most of. And there's a lot of examples in all of this. And then you need to move into the level 3. Obviously, we want to get to the level 3, 4, and 5. And 3 is counteracting the 2s and the 1s. So it would be like, I never smoke. I loved his example about that. How the person kept saying, I don't smoke, or what was it? Let's say they were smoking and they go, I no longer smoke, and they're smoking. Well, after a while, he said, you got to where, he didn't even want it. It didn't taste good. And I believe after reading all this, I know this stuff will work. I'm excited to try this with some other issues. I'm going to test some things out. I'm pretty excited. Level 4 is basically painting. You've painted the whole new picture of yourself. You've recreated it. You see yourself. You forget all the bad program. It's in the past. You're actually moving forward. You're seeing the progress. So, I do everything I need to when I need to do it. I enjoy getting things done. I enjoy getting things done on time. And, it's just really affirming, like almost like you've become in the habit mode of doing this, if that makes sense. Level 5 is Level 5, he talks about being one with the universe, which you know how I feel about that. Basically, that just means, you know what, you're in God's will. The universe, in my opinion, it's God. You're in his will for your life. You have found his purpose for your life, and you're living it. To me, that's level 5. I love it. I mean, it talks about how to begin right now, and that starts on the bottom of page 81. And so that's kind of where, when we get to the homework, I want you to reference page 81 and 82. We're going to come back to that for the homework. Chapter 10, Helen, did you need to add anything to that?
Nope, that's great.
All right. Chapter 10, the problem with positive thinking. I love this because that sounds so crazy, right? The problem with positive thinking. Literally millions of people have been helped by great books. There's just millions of dollars spent every year on these books. And I remember reading The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. I remember reading that book. It's a great book. And it's good stuff. But how come people buy all these books and talk about being a positive person, but then still nothing's happening? They're still hitting the wall. And I really, really love the example he gives. If you flip on over, he talks about the furniture. This is actually kind of starts talking about it on 85, but it goes all the way through 87. And he talks about how, if you're moving all the old furniture out of your house, and right now you're just going to store it in your garage, and that's all good. But if you don't quickly replace the old furniture's gone, you have no couch to sit on, you have no chair, you have no refrigerator. If you don't start replacing that stuff with new stuff, what are you going to start doing after time? You're going to start going out to the garage, and one by one, just, we'll just use it for a little while longer. And then you go back into those old ways. I really love that analogy. I think that's the best way. It's also, it's the analogy of, taking out the old CD in the computer. And you can't just leave out the old CD and expect the computer to work. You've got to replace it with a new CD, new information that makes the computer more productive, runs smoothly, and gets the results that you want. And so it's the same analogy. I love it. So wanting to be a positive thinker, I'm going to close with this, is not enough. Making the decision to have a positive attitude isn't enough. The human brain says, give me more. Give me the words. Give me the directions, the commands, the picture, the schedule, and the results you want. Then I will do it for you. Give me the words. Oh, how I love that. What a great recap on the entire night, really. Yeah, really. So I'm going to let Helen give you the assignment. I'm going to give you an assignment, and then we're going to close.
It just makes sense because it's like your thoughts are based on what you're telling yourself. So how do you have thoughts all the time if you're not feeding your words aren't feeding your mind with those type of, that are going to give you those thoughts? So it really does make sense. I mean, why do people, it's kind of like just hearing it, going to an event and then from event to event to event. And we hear something, we get so excited. Oh, it's so positive. I love the energy. Well, what are you going to do to recreate that for you every single day? It has to come from affirmations and your own languaging, to make that happen. So, just good stuff. I cannot believe I'm frozen this whole Zoom. Seriously. Am I still frozen to you?
Oh yeah, you're frozen.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well, you get to stare at my open mouth and hand and whatever I look like. Okay, so here is your assignment today. It goes with chapter 7. 5 times a day for the next week, we want you to verbalize something positive to your children and to your spouse. So to become aware of the things that not only are you saying to yourself, because your affirmations, that will still obviously be your assignment, and to use those every single day. Having the perfect plexus day, power day. You should be having at least 3 of those a week, but the affirmations are a given. So 5 times a day, verbalizing something positive to your children and your spouse. That is one assignment, and I'm going to have Sonia turn over to her to close with the last assignment.
Yeah, and that'll be fun. That'll be fun to do. That's going to be a fun thing to do. If it's not a habit for us, it's going to be fun to see the results from that. And I say let's do it for the next 2 weeks. Let's do it until we meet back, and which I'm about to talk about. I'm going to give your assignment. Kind of refers to chapter 9. I want you to look at the 5 levels in chapter 9. I want you to look at where you are the most. What do you feel like you do the most of? The level 1 or the level 2? And you may be a good mix of some. Figure out that, recognize that, and then I want you to make the affirmations very solid, using even some of the good examples he gave in 3 and 4, using some of those. So recognize it, counteracting them, and really saying them. And I love, someone said this week they were really enjoying listening to it over and over and over on that app.
It was Debbie.
Okay. Yeah. So continue to do that. And we're not going to have a Zoom next Sunday, the 20th. We're actually having Christmas that day, not here, but somewhere else. And it's an all day, all night thing. So not just because of me not being present, but we just know that week on, there's a lot of church programs that day. And we just realized, you know what, we don't want to rush through this. This is so heavy and deep, and we want you to really just reflect and really get prepared. So when we meet back on the 27th of December, we will have read just chapters 11 through 15. So you're going to have 2 weeks to read chapters 11 through 15 and do your homework. But we just really know there's a lot of this is heavy, and y'all know that. So we don't want to rush through it. So that's kind of where we're going to pick up. And Helen, did you want to close? And you guys, this is awesome. I'm loving this. It's so transformational. So excited to see what's ahead for you guys in the new year. Your whole life. Wow.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be kind of interesting too, because by the time we come back, we'll have gone through Christmas and we'll be with family, and now we're going to be so aware of our words and our family's words and our relatives. And so just kind of be thinking about that, where have these thoughts come from? I mean, we know, but it'll just be interesting. And I would just be so bold as to really talk about this book. And, you never know, how much this book can really impact not just you and your immediate family, but, just to be bold enough to share it with your outside family. There's a lot to absorb in these chapters. And so we just made that decision that we did not want to have to rush through, because it is such a busy time, and we want you to be able to be really present, really get what you're needing out of these chapters and apply it to your life and apply it to your Plexus business. So we love you guys. Have a Merry Christmas. We will resume, like we said, on the 27th. But there's Harley. Oh, Harley. I'm sure
he's mama's boy, and he says, you are beautiful and you are smart, and doggone it, I love you.
People love you. Awesome. So yes, we will continue to post in the groups and share what your breakthroughs are and your assignments, and we'll we'll post this Zoom in there later tonight and we'll recap the assignments as well. So you guys have a great week. Merry Christmas. We love you all.
Merry Christmas. Love you